What's up, everyone? This is the Next State Podcast, episode 65 with Mikel, and
Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So we have entered the new year
Yeah.
in 2025 for everybody. And yeah, I hope everybody had a great New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
And Christmas. We haven't talked to
And
you guys since Christmas.
Christmas. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, I hope you guys enjoyed your eggnog, your cookies, your presents, your family that you're around, the turkey, the dinner, etc. You know, and yeah. Um,
And I
Tanyka,
hope you have your New Year's resolutions, if that's your thing,
well,
ready to go.
that's probably will be lasting for like 1 to 3 months,
Mhm.
according to a lot of people who just
If you want more information on that, you can go to our last year's episode
yeah.
on that. But yeah, it's aim for goals for the year. That's what
Yeah,
you aim to
yeah,
do.
just be focused on your goals because,
Mhm.
like, you don't need to, yeah, just focus on them.
Yeah.
Uh,
So just as a reminder before
yeah,
we head into what we're going to be doing this year or
yeah,
this first episode of the year,
yeah.
just a reminder again, we're new format. We have 2 episodes a week now,
Mhm.
with 2 bonuses every month. Well, the potential of 2 bonuses every month. And we also have a new website coming up that's probably going to be sometime in February
Mhm.
because we have not yet started doing that yet. So we'll have um, announcements on that as to when that happens. But I think that's basically it for
Mhm.
the C updates on that.
Mhm. Okay,
All right.
okay, all right. Let's continue.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about some space. We're going to be talking about quote unquote spiders being found on Mars.
Mhm.
We're going to be talking about that pesky second moon that we had at the end of last year.
Yep.
And then we're also going to be talking about the city vowing to improve safety in homeless shelters.
Right.
That's what we're going
Okay.
to talk about.
Okay. All right.
All
Let's
right.
get to it.
All right. So, our first topic, spiders on Mars. So, this is a word that I'm not going to be able to say, but let's bear with me. Arachnophobes. So I think that's actually the fear of spiders.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you worry, because they're not actually spiders, but we're going to talk about it. So,
Mm-hmm.
a new European Space Agency, which is ESA, image of Martian quote unquote spiders actually shows seasonal eruptions of carbon dioxide gas on the red planet. And I have photos, y'all. It's really weird. The dark, spindly formations were spotted in a formation known as Inca City in Mars. So there's Inca cities in Mars, southern polar region. Images taken by ESA's Mars Express orbiter and ExoMars Trace Gas orbiter show dark clusters of dots that appear to have teeny, tiny little legs, not unlike baby spiderlings huddling together. The formations are actually channels of gas measuring 0.03 to 0.6 miles, so 45 meters to 1 kilometer across. They originate when the weather starts to warm in the southern hemisphere during Martian spring, melting layers of carbon dioxide gas. The warmth causes the lowest layers of ice to turn to gas or sublimate.
So is this a NASA scientist reporting this, or is this just like
This isn't NASA. This is an ESA. So it's an agency.
okay. Right.
That's reporting this. But don't worry, I have the pictures. I want to show you the photo when I get to it.
Mm-hmm.
As the gas expands and rises, it explodes out of the overlying ice layers,
Mhm.
carrying with it dark dust from the solid surface. So this dust geysers out of the ice before showering down onto the top layer, creating the cracked, spidery pattern seen in the photo. Um, so when I find the photo, I will send it. Inca City is also known as Angustus uh, Labyrinthus, I think. It's named for its linear ruin-like ridge lines,
Right.
which were once thought to be petrified
Mhm.
sand dunes or perhaps remnants of ancient Martian glaciers,
Mm.
which could have left high walls of sediment behind as they retreated. So in 2002, the Mars orbiter revealed that Inca City is part of a circular feature,
Right.
approximately 53 miles, 86 kilometers wide.
Mhm.
This feature may be an old impact crater, suggesting that the geometric ridges may
Mhm.
be magma intrusions
Mhm.
that rose through the cracked, heated crust of Mars after
Mhm.
it was hit by a renegade space rock.
Oh,
Interesting.
interesting.
Mhm.
So, so are these spiders gonna come to Earth and then you're gonna
But
wipe
they're not
them out?
actually spiders. It's not actually spiders. It's how the carbon dioxide is forming that
Right.
it gives it that spider look. So they're not
Okay.
actually spiders, but
Damn.
it's creepy. It looks like spiders. They look like
Damn.
baby spiders.
So you're telling me I can't become a radioactive Spider-Man
Not on Mars.
or spider, space spider?
No.
Okay. All right. Damn.
The crater would have been filled with sediment, which has
Yeah.
since eroded, partially revealing the magma formations, reminiscent of ancient ruins.
Mm.
Um, so although these may not be real spiders on the red planet, we still hold out hope that one day we will find signs of life. So, maybe one day. Um, so yeah, it's kind of that. So I'm gonna send you this picture
Mhm, mhm.
so you can give your thoughts. Let me see if I have a better. Okay, no, it's just this one. Okay, all right, I have sent it to you. So take a look at that.
Okay, I see it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
don't they look like little spiders?
Yeah, they do.
But they're not.
Interesting. Hmm.
Huh. So that will be posted on our socials, so you can take a look and see.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
pretty crazy.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, and I think I'll also have a photo of the Inca city as well, which is also pretty cool.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
We're still in
Right.
space. We're going to be talking about the second moon that we had here. So Earth's second moon, an asteroid actually that's called Como Ovalia, appears to have come from the moon itself, actually. So this asteroid is a part of our moon.
Mm.
Interesting. Scientists have concluded this using computer models, revealing its origin as the Giordano Bruno crater on the moon's far side. So near Earth asteroids, of which the Kamoa is one of those, are generally thought to have come from the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter's orbits. I'm going to call it Kamo because I don't want to keep saying the full name. So,
Interesting.
yeah, Kamo,
Mm.
also
Yeah.
called 2016 HO3, and
Oh.
meaning oscillating celestial object in Hawaiian. It's about 130 to 330 feet,
Mhm.
so 40 to 100 meters across, about the size of the Statue of Liberty.
Mm.
It was discovered in 2016 by Pan Stars, an array of telescopes in
Mhm.
Hawaii
Mhm.
designed to find and track NEAs. So about 250,000 NEAs are currently known. HAMO is a quasi-satellite of Earth because it appears to orbit Earth despite actually orbiting the sun. It moves in sync with Earth in a one-to-one renaissance. The asteroid comes from Gio Giordano Bruno, as I said, crater on the far side of the moon, according to a paper published this would have been last year in Nature Astronomy. A 14-mile wide, so 22-kilometer Giordano Bruno crater is thought to be the youngest crater of its size or larger on the moon's surface. The researchers say it was caused by an asteroid about 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers, in diameter, striking the moon between 1 million and 10 million years ago. Isn't that nuts? The researchers used numerical, I'm fine, simulations to model the kind of impact that could produce and eject something the size of Como. The project involved weeks of computation on supercomputers to explore every possibility according to science. So basically, if we think about it, this is the dark side of the moon. And I'm not going to sing, I promise you. So Giordano Bruno crater is on the moon's far side, often mistakenly called the dark side of the moon. Despite it being a term used in popular culture, move on anybody, the dark side of the moon has no technical meaning. The moon is tidally locked to Earth, so we only see one side of it, the near side. So, however, half of the moon is constantly lit by the sun as it orbits Earth, with only our view of it changing day and night. These are the phases of the moon, but only at full moon is the far side completely dark.
Right.
So, that's that.
Okay.
Let's go on to our last topic, and that is the homeless, the safety in homeless shelters. So, Toronto officials are putting together a plan to increase safety in the city shelter system following a report that says violence toward shelter residents and workers has risen since 2011. Saying, quote, violence and service restrictions are serious issues in Toronto's shelter system on which more action is needed. Improving safety in the shelter system will be a challenging task that requires nuanced and balanced approaches. According to the report entitled Center for Addiction and Mental Health, so CAMH Shelter, Safety Study, interpersonal violence in the shelter system increased 283% from 2011 to 2021. With over 1,000 incidents reported in 2011 and 4,102 incidents reported in 2021. Such violence is defined as physical assaults, verbal abuse, threats of death and harm, and harassment of staff and residents.
That's crazy.
Yeah. CAMH worked with Toronto Shelter and Support Services on the study. The report says the rate of service restrictions in which individuals are denied access to shelter services for any one reason, such as violating rules, increased 33% from 2014 to 2021, but dropped 49% from 2021 to 2023. So, the report says, sorry, I lost my spot. The report says 17 residents had 522 service restrictions in 2021, which accounted for 6.5% of all restrictions that year.
Oh, wow.
Overcrowding, the pandemic, winter, hopelessness, and frustration among residents, as well as shelter policies that limit privacy, control, and autonomy, poor staff communication, and ineffective interventions all played a role, according to the report, which makes 22 recommendations.
So what can Canada do to improve this? Or is it just
I don't know if it's necessarily a federal thing, though,
mm, mm,
you know, because what could be happening in other provinces isn't necessarily happening here, and
mm.
vice versa, right?
Right, right.
So I think this falls under the province, but
So
I
Ontario.
mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Mm, mm. Do you think
Yeah,
more housing is can help and more, more programs, more shelters?
yeah, that would
Okay.
help. The more shelters would definitely help overcrowding.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I know like Japan has like some different type of system. Like, they
mhm,
have a system that, they do house like apartments and buildings
mhm,
for the homelesses, but they have it like, a cheaper rent for the homeless people.
mhm.
So
And we
I
have
want
subsidy here, but
hmm
um, I don't know
mm.
if apartments is something that, or just homes in general,
Yeah, yeah,
would be
because
something that we do here. I don't
yeah,
know if we have the capability to. I don't know.
because the Japanese government is doing something like that. They've been doing something like that for like years. So like and it has
Mhm,
to decrease like, homelessness.
mhm,
So like yeah, that could be helpful, but
mhm.
I don't know if the Canadian government's even thinking about doing something like that, or
I don't know. I
would
mean,
that help?
again, the
Yeah,
majority of people who are homeless
yeah,
are people who, for whatever reason, are just down on their luck, right? But then
yeah.
there's also the other population of the homeless that are
Hmm.
into drug use,
Right.
are also mentally ill.
Yeah.
So it's like
Would that be dangerous to do something like that? Because
I
like
do wonder.
yeah.
Yeah,
So hmm.
yeah. I mean, mentally ill people, I feel like they need to be in a facility
See,
to get better.
yeah. See,
But the
see
thing
what?
is you can't commit someone
Yeah.
without their consent.
See, what I think what the Japanese are doing, if you're using drugs, they will, if any type of homeless is doing any type of like, drugs or into substance or anything like that,
Mhm.
you get a penalty like jail sentence or something like that.
Yeah, no, I hear
Yeah.
you what you're saying,
So
and I think
yeah.
we would do the same too. Um, Depending on the situation, what drug you're using, right?
Yeah.
Obviously weed is legal, but I'm sure these people aren't doing that alone.
Yeah, yeah, like in terms of like, if they were to do like the whole like, apartment thing, if Canada were to do I think those set of
Yeah, but
rules.
that's really tough,
Yeah.
because again, even for Japanese people,
Mm,
um, mm, being a drug user, it's an illness.
mm.
So penalizing somebody for really just being sick is a little, I don't know if that's necessarily the right approach either. Um,
So it's working over there,
I
but
understand that, but I just don't.
yeah,
That's Japan. We're not
yeah,
Japan.
yeah.
Um, we're our own country. We deal with our
Hmm.
own things.
Hmm.
Um, and that's something they implemented, and yes, it works.
Hmm.
But what works in one country doesn't work in another. And the thing is it is still an illness.
Mm.
And just because you penalize someone does not mean they're not going to continue doing it.
Right.
What they need to do is get that person help. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Um, to go into a rehab and get the
Mm.
help that they need.
Mm.
Um, so that's more what I'm thinking would be a better solution than
Mm.
penalizing somebody, because penalizing somebody
Mm.
it's not going to make them stop, honestly. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't know,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
um, so this is kind of just talking now about one person's uh thoughts, I guess, on this. So,
Mhm.
one advocate for unhoused people, however, says relationship building between staff and shelter residents needs to be a priority for any recommendations to work. I would agree. Saying, quote, what's missing here as a perspective is the idea that really this is a relationship work. And this is said by Diana Chan McNally, who is a community worker at All Saints Toronto, a church and community center. And she told this to reporters at City Hall. And she continued to say, quote, when we're working with homeless people and we talk about providing all of these integrated supports, if we don't have trusting relationships with people, there's no way that those interventions will actually work. With shelters, oftentimes you see staff who are sitting in a glass booth. They're not actually out and engaging with the people who live there. There are no relationships that are being built. And if you don't have that mutual trust, you will see a lack of safety in those spaces.
Mhm.
At a meeting of Council's Economic and Community Development Committee on Tuesday, this would have been last year, city staff said that the plan includes implementing a behavioral risk alert safety system to increase workplace safety for all shelter providers.
Mhm.
The system launching this year increases information, or I guess last year, sharing across programs about residents with a history of violent behavior. So the system that's launched, I believe, last year, increases information sharing across programs about residents with a history of violent behavior with the goal of supporting shelter staff in safety planning.
Mhm.
So Gordon Tanner, who is the general manager of TSSS, so that's the Toronto Shelter System, told reporters that the shelter system grew by more than 30% since 2020. Obviously, people losing their jobs became homeless. The start of the pandemic, and that the growth had consequences. He said, quote, you have to look at the size of the shelter system over that time period. It has doubled and then doubled again since 2011. At the same time, during the height of the pandemic, we moved thousands of people around to new spots in new shelter places, and it was a huge upheaval for people. The numbers that we're seeing are important for us to understand and to address and to take action on. Tanner said other sectors, including healthcare settings, are seeing increases in violence against staff and residents. He said it's important to remember that many of the incidents occurred during the height of the pandemic, saying, quote, what we have seen is shelter work today does not look like shelter work 10 or 15 years ago. Complex issues such as the drug toxicity crisis, increasing poverty and homelessness crisis, and frankly, unmet mental health needs across the city all collaborate to create a very complex situation for some of our most vulnerable residents. Dr. Nick Kerman, who is a scientific associate at CAMH and one of the authors of the report, told reporters that he hopes that that report validates the concerns of shelter residents and workers, saying, quote, what I hope that this report does is provide clear evidence of what I think a lot of people knew or thought was happening in the context of the shelter system. Councillor Alejandra Brava, who represents Ward 9, I think that's Davenport, says strained resources are contributing to the problem, and it limits the city's ability to help those most in need. Those most in need include the 17 shelter residents who need extensive and specialized support. The report found they were responsible for hundreds of incidents, saying, quote, it's a small number of people that are in reoccurring crisis and that those people have need for additional supports and that those supports are not being met. The report also found that about 36% of shelter staff feel very or somewhat unsafe in the workplace. Roughly 43% of Black and Indigenous shelter staff reported experiencing daily verbal abuse involving racism. Great. The report said there are opportunities to make change by addressing key needs, such as using a prevention lens to strengthen the availability of mental health supports and ensuring continuity of support for service users through community partnerships. Its recommendations include implementing more intensive team-based mental health supports in the shelter system, prioritizing the reduction of crowding in shelters, and establishing more consistent service restriction processes and decisions within and between shelter organizations. It also recommends that the city develop a specialized program to support people with extensive histories of violence and service restrictions. Earlier that year, the city released data showing that the number of tents set up by unhoused people in encampments and more had doubled in Toronto in the past year. Yeah, I can attest. Definitely see that, especially in downtown Toronto. According, you gonna say something?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. According to the city, people are taking shelters in parks that haven't seen encampments before. In the last 3 months, there were 10,833 actively homeless people in Toronto, according to city data. The number of people who used the city's shelter system was 9,969,000. So obviously that leaves a shortfall. On April 29th, while the average number of people unable to secure a shelter bed nightly was 178 people in March. So, yeah. So that's that. That is the end of our first episode.
So we have a bonus. I didn't talk.
We have a bonus. Ooh.
Tell Tanyka about this. So
no, you're surprising me.
Right. So once in a while, I'm gonna probably be doing this in the new year.
Yeah, we also have. That's what one of our bonus episodes are also going to be. Is more on topic stuff that's happening like in the moment.
Bonus. Yeah, I would like bonus topics without Tanyka knowing. Surprise her a little bit. It keeps the episode interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, TFA contributions limit in 2025 has changed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically the same thing as 2024. So the contribution limit is going to be 7,000 this year. 7,000. So the federal government kept the annual TFSA to, contribution limit at 7,000 for 2025. The same limit, like I said, as 2024. That's still good news for a lot of Canadians, savers, and investors who, as of January 1st, 2025, will have a lifetime TFSA contribution limit of $102,000. So that's from, if you're like older than 18, just like me, you would have a contribution limit of $102,000. So if you're just turning 18, you will have a contribution limit of $7,000. So there you go. That's the bonus today.
Okay.
So this ends this episode 65 of the Next Tape podcast. The Next Tape podcast is available on all podcast platforms. We also have wait a second. We don't have a website.
Well, we still have our solo.to website for now. We will be probably launching the new website. I'm going to say beginning of February. So that's kind of what we're probably going to be doing. So we don't have much else yet, but definitely stay tuned. We will let you know what that new website is going to be. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to
still say that other one because we still have that one.
Okay. Solo.co/Next Tape podcast. Where else are we at, Tanika?
We are on Facebook and Instagram and Next Day Podcast and Twitter and TikTok at Next Day Pod.
And you can contact us on email at mikeltanika@gmail.com and at mikeltanika@gmail.com. So, what do we talk about in today's episode, Tanika?
We talked about spiders, quote unquote, on Mars. We talked about that second moon that we had, which is actually an asteroid. And we talked about safety, improving safety in homeless shelters in Toronto.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, yeah. And also the bonus is the TFSA contribution
Mhm.
uh will be $7,000 in 2025. But yeah, that's about it. Anything else, Tanika, that you want to say?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm Mikel, and
And I'm Tanyka.
we're out until next week. Happy New Year's, guys.
Actually, we're out until Thursday.
Okay.
We have our
Oh,
next episode. Remember, we're doing 2 episodes a week now.
sorry, my bad. I'm so
We're used to doing that. Yeah.
saying next week. Well, see you Thursday, and happy to everybody. So, there you go.
All right.